Where am I? What happened? Who am I?
Welcome back to the land of the living, Mr. President. You're the 47th President of the United States, Alex Sellers. We're in my office in Mount Weather, and it's October 12th, 2022. 8 months ago, you destroyed the world.
I'm sure it wasn't my intention.
8 months ago, you started World War III with the Commonwealth of Independent States. And since that time, you've been under my care, suffering from severe shock, completely unresponsive and catatonic. I'm Dr. Tree, a psychologist from the Department of Health and Human Services. Today, we're going to try to remember the events leading up to the war. Is anything coming back to you?
I don't want to remember.
Try to remember. Tell me about the earliest event you can remember.
I remember running for president and giving a speech. That's it. Thank you, good night, and God bless America.
Great speech, Alex, but what are we doing for peace?
I want to work for greater international cooperation, strategic agreements for our forces and things like that.
2 words: nuclear disarmament.
I'm not sure that's what the people want, Bill. Nuclear weapons make people feel safe.
That doesn't mean they are. Since the 1950s, we've had 20 mishaps that almost caused a nuclear war. A flock of geese have been mistaken as bombers. There are plenty of voters that would like to see the end of nuclear weapons. I'm one of them, Alex. I protested for nuclear armament in 1990s.
I wasn't aware of that. Didn't the problem with nuclear weapons go away with the Cold War?
Think about other nuclear powers. Powers such as North Korea, Pakistan, Israel, or India. They're unlikely to have fail-safes like we do. There are at least 22,600 nuclear weapons in the world. Even if a small percentage of them were used, that would pose grave threat on the world.
We used 2 atomic bombs in World War II on Japan. Is the threat really that serious?
Those bombs were tiny, even in comparison to some of the arsenals of the minor nuclear powers. Scientists believe a nuclear war between Pakistan and India could, in addition to unimaginable devastation, create a nuclear winter.
Haven't we made a number of efforts to control nuclear arms?
At the beginning of the atomic age, there was a proposal to ban all nuclear weapons in response to the Bush Plan, but that was rejected. We've attempted to limit the number of nuclear weapons through the Non-Proliferation Treaty of 1968. That has not been successful. Since then, 5 more countries have joined the nuclear club. During the Cold War, the U.S. and the USSR made a number of attempts to limit the number of weapons fielded, with arms talks such as SALT and START. But they made no attempt to get rid of weapons. We have the opportunity to become leader in nuclear disarmament.
Has a multilateral disarmament been tried before? It failed, didn't it? Why is this time any different?
Previously, disarmament was tried through the UN and through the Soviet Union and United States. The post-Cold War is different. This time we can use a NATO and CETO allies to help put our policies forward. We can show the threat in terms of rogue states such as Iran and North Korea, as well as from terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda. We can show that a world full of nuclear weapons is a threat to all humanity. The U.S. and our allies can provide incentives towards staying away from nuclear weapons. We can provide protection for countries that feel threatened by aggressive neighbors by guaranteeing their security.
What happens if a rogue state is uncooperative?
We isolate them. That is in line with the U.S. policy stretching back to before the end of the Cold War. If they attempt to use nuclear weapons, we intervene with our allies. The world is willing to help us combat a legitimate regional threat.
Let's go to work then. My platform. I'll make it priority one when I get in the Oval Office.
Thank you for taking the time to see me, President Sellers. I represent Yo-Yo Dynamics and the Keep America Safe Political Action Committee.
Good to see you, Chris. Sit down. What's on your mind? I like to keep things informal.
I appreciate that. The people I represent are very concerned with the direction your defense policy is taking. We did a lot to get you elected, and we're worried that you might find yourself vulnerable in the media and have difficulty getting your legislation through Congress if you continue on this path.
Are you threatening me? I've never taken any money from Yo-Yo Dine.
That's true. But you did take money from our PAC. We contributed the maximum in 2016, and we paid for a number of advertisements on your behalf. You are supported by our subsidiary, General Technics, and by the General Electric subsidiary, Senior Fleet Systems. Is this starting to ring any bells with you?
Threats and campaign money aside, I have to do what's right for the American people. Our nuclear policy stands. I plan on running on that policy when I go for my second term.
Let's take a look at that policy, Mr. President. In the past 2 years, you have dramatically cut U.S. nuclear forces, had the appropriation for the Peacekeeper missile die in committee, and you've been pressuring our NATO allies to reduce their nuclear arsenal. You're putting America at risk, President Sellers. Nuclear weapons are the backbone of American defense.
My staff and I have discussed this. Nuclear weapons are worthless from a military standpoint. They didn't stop the Russians from installing nuclear missiles in Cuba during the 60s. They did not deter Iraq from attacking Israel during the first Gulf War. Nuclear weapons are a political bargaining chip. They do not help America's defense. My policy is to work towards total disarmament of the world.
Without nuclear weapons, the U.S. is at the mercy of any country that possesses them. This is completely irresponsible.
The United States has the strongest and most advanced military in the world. We have a worldwide network of bases and can strike anywhere on a moment's notice. The only belligerent nuclear powers at present do not have the capability of reaching the United States with missiles or aircraft.
What about terrorists?
Intercontinental ballistic missiles do not deter terrorists. You have to have a country to shoot at for missiles and bombers to be effective. You need large targets. The current availability of nuclear material from places like Russia or Pakistan makes nuclear terrorism more likely. The world's better off without nuclear weapons.
Well, Mr. President, times are tight. If you don't want to slash the defense budget, you're going to have to stay with nuclear weapons. No other weapon provides more bang for the buck.
Nuclear weapons are impossible to use except in response to a nuclear strike. From 1940 to 1996, we spent at least $5.5 trillion on nuclear weapons. That's 29% of the defense budget between 1940 and 1996. On a weapon of zero military utility, no weapon provides less bang for the buck than nuclear weapons.
I'm not here to argue with you, President Sellers. This is what will happen if you pursue your current policy objectives. You'll be attacked in the media. One of our subsidiaries is the National Broadcast Network. We also own 2 of the largest newspaper chains in the country. Members of our Political Action Committee have other media assets as well. We can convince certain congressmen to kill any bill you favor, and we have senators ready and standing by to filibuster.
Chris, I'm going to forget for a minute that you're talking to the most powerful man in the free world and ask you what your terms are.
You get back in line with your party's policy on defense and bring nuclear spending back to its normal levels. You also must fire William Seacrest. We know he's behind this.
No, that's not going to happen.
If you don't, we'll expose his past and show his links to the terrorist group known as the Plowshares 8. They destroyed millions of dollars worth of nose cones for nuclear missiles back in the 80s. Members of the group continued to do whatever they could to hurt our nation's defense. And that's exactly what the American people will see on our NBN special news report. We have the footage ready to air. It'll ruin him. And you'll be impeached for allowing him to be your chief of staff. And then we'll get what we want anyway.
You let him walk away and you won't bother him?
Of course. So long as he stays outside of a policy-making role in government, we don't care about him. And, of course, as long as you do what we want.
Bill! Sorry, I need your resignation. There's nothing I can do anyway.
President Sellers, please report to the military debriefing room. Be escorted by the airmen.
Very well.
Please, mister, can't you see? Cost of hollow victories. Cloud is not.
How did the war start? Why, Alex? Why? How did the war start? Bang for the buck.
How did the war start?
Someone has to take a stand.
Sir.
What's going on? What year is it?
The drill is over. Marine 1 is waiting.
It's alright, Alex. Come on, we're gonna be late.
All the wars and senseless killing cease. Woken from a nightmare with solitary sound that we'll hear when we lay our guns down. There's gotta be better way. Solve the conflicts faced today. Call ourselves intelligent kind. Peace we search, so fine. Let's make a pact, you and me. Speak for those who don't agree. Decisions made, vision blind can wash away all mankind. So if you can imagine, all the world could be at peace. All wars and senseless killing cease. Woken from a nightmare with the solitary sound that we'll hear when we lay our guns